Welcome back to Paradise Killer. In the last episode, we looked at the crime scene and saw plenty of strange things. I was surprised at how many people apparently didn't go to the crime scene until the very end of the game. I got a lot of comments from people who had found both of Aiz Kawami's kids before they went to the crime scene, and as we shall see, finding both of the kids is pretty endgame. It's like the big hidden thing. I even saw somebody who said they didn't even realize that the whole death demon, killer demon thing existed until after they had discovered Ai's other kid, which is really interesting to me. That's the thing about these open-world adventure games. You get to find things in radically unusual orders.
What do you want, freak? Are you still?
Don't test me.
Since we're passing by Carmelina, it's good to have a little chat with her. I don't expect this to be all episode. We've already had our first chat, and that was the big one. What we're doing now is mostly hanging out.
We have achieved perfection.
There is a balance here. Positioning of function creates form. The functions of the island are arranged as a diamond on a compass. Everything has a place only it can have.
How dare
It is folly to prioritize form over function. Without function, a design is worthless. Blah, blah, I can't talk today. An architect that is scared of function and tries to hide it away is a coward with narrow tastes. It is not happenstance that I chose to expose the workings of the island. For example, electricity meters on the side of buildings are not hidden in a more form-fitting hatch. They are exposed, and that allows us to appreciate their function. If we can find function visually appealing, we have grown. The circumstances you find yourself in are of course terrible, but I do hope you enjoy your time on the island. Obviously that has nothing to do with the game itself, but it does say something about the way that the game is designed, since clearly it was designed, I wouldn't say with that exact idea in mind, but it was designed sort of along those lines. Obviously, there is a lot of visual glitter to this game. There's a lot of things that look a specific way, but the game is definitely built with a focus on function. Now look at all this stuff. Most of it is going to be generic, but let's take a look. Do you feel you aren't being rewarded for your hard work? What do you mean by that? I have heard there is a suspicion that you feel aggrieved. I do not require a reward for my craft. Craft is its own reward.
How dare you? I was born to investigate.
What can you tell me about your self-imposed isolation 25 years ago?
Do your job.
I have no idea why something I did 25 years ago is any of your concern. What were you doing? What I chose to do is nothing you need to concern yourself with. We know, however, that she was having a kid. Hooray!
I am the leader.
Yuri is my secretary. So, before she went to hang out with Witness to the End, she hung out with Yuri for a while.
We have achieved perfection.
What do you know about the
Craft
Fourth
is
Holy
its own
Seal?
reward.
Nothing.
We have achieved perfection.
Alright, so here is one of the more interesting elements. This is a big thing to confront her with. I've been in your bunker. Why was it coded only to Witness's blood
I
vial?
beg your pardon?
It embarrasses me to say it, but it was a lover's retreat. I disliked the design as a bunker and dropped my plan for them. It sat unused.
Craft is its
Spending
own
time there
reward.
with Witness felt illicit, exciting, but things didn't work out. I haven't been in there in years. So I saw.
I have a bad feeling about this.
By the way, this is actually a really nice little subtlety. She says, so I saw on the logs I pulled from it, because the player needs to be reminded that that is Witness to the End's bunker, not Carmelina's bunker. Carmelina has a different bunker. So you definitely weren't experimenting on a killer demon. Absolutely not. Know anything about demons
This
on
is
the island?
nonsense.
The marshals did an exemplary job of wiping the demons out. It was not enough to stop the corruption, though. Alright, let's move through here. Did
We
you
have
see
achieved
Grand Marshal?
perfection.
While I was with Witness, he got a call from Akiko. You should ask him about it. We are going to have to talk to Witness to the End at some point. It's going to be like a half-hour episode.
Craft is its own reward.
Most of the rest of the
We
stuff
have
should be
achieved
generic.
perfection.
Just moving through it.
Beg your pardon? Craft is its own reward.
And there we have it. I think we need to talk to her either once or twice more, but it's just for quick little hangouts. We don't need to spend a lot of time with her. Now, here we are, back out on the island. There are so many things we have to do. Right now, we are very close to another character, and that would be Doomjazz. And we are very close to the ability to go and talk to a god. So I think that those should be the things we do next. I think that would be a good idea. Let's go ahead and see if we can talk to Doomjazz and go visit a god. Where's Run? Run, run. There it is. So Doomjazz is down here. There we are. Let's go ahead and visit the god first. We'll talk to Doomjazz afterwards. Excuse me. So we came here before. We climbed to the very top of the pyramid. And there was really nothing to it because we couldn't hack this switch. It requires all of the upgrades. Fortunately, we now have all of the upgrades. So let's start with our goat. Nope. So I wanted to talk a little bit about these upgrades. The basic idea of this game is this mini game here where we're fixing things up is that we match the silhouette. I think that has a lot more potential to it than we're being shown here, and that's fine. That's not like it is part of their core gameplay, so it's fine if it's not showing the most of its potential. But I think it is kind of a shame that this goes unexplored. I think there is a lot of room for us to talk about using this same basic approach. And the idea with me would be that it would be like layered, and you might have different silhouette pieces from different collections on the same image. Maybe you have to subtract silhouettes instead of, as well as add them, stuff like that. There's a lot of possibilities there because it's overlaying onto a shared space, and I think that is something that has a lot of potential. It's a two-dimensional version of the Hillsfar Challenge, and I think that is very promising. But before we do any of that, we've got to talk to this god. You can see we've got another error in the post-processing visuals, the fog effects. It's foggy outside, and that fog came in here for a little while due to a glitch in how it's being drawn. Not a big deal. You might recognize this guy. There have been several statues that we've encountered of him, and if we feed them, then he cries and we get some loot. Crying Grudge. Why am I plagued by insects? You don't seem particularly fazed by meeting a god. Too many of you have come to see me these last few years, exploiting my weakened state. Your mad king, the obsessed little shit. And the masked man, a sneaky one. The masked man is witness to the end. That's not a secret. He's the only guy who wears a mask. The woman that builds. She's pure in her goals. I admire her. So we've got the dead king, witness to the end, and Carmelina. Putting the dead guy aside, Witness to the End and Carmelina are both the leaders of the various conspiracies. They have two competing conspiracies. And they both came to talk to Crying Grudge because he's the only god around. They didn't exactly come to talk to him. They came to exploit him.
Sure.
The Mad King is dead. Why do you refer to Montserrat as mad? He believed he was more than he was. Anyone like that is mad. He doubled down on his madness, though. His plans for the next island. The arrogance. Who was the mad... You really need this explained? You need to find why he took my flesh from me. The one that oversees the end of an island. I have met him before. He came to me recently. Witness, what did he want? My flesh. Witness stole chunks of the dead god. And we already know that this is something we have a use for. The fourth seal required a proof of godliness. Well, what better proof of godliness than a chunk of a god? Montserrat's little necklace had a chunk of witness to the end in it, and apparently, so did witness to the end. He stole some from the same god, and who knows? Maybe Carmelina took some too. Yeah, see, same as the woman. So Carmelina and Witness to the End both came over here to Crying Grudge to steal chunks of Crying Grudge to use as keys in Montserrat's lock. But that means that only the people that have chunks of God can get past that fourth seal. And so we know where the three pieces are. Montserrat had one, Witness to the End had one, and Carmelina had one. So those are the only three people that should have been able to get through that final lock. But Witness to the End and Carmelina didn't go through the final lock. So what's going on? My flesh was fused with another. My body lives elsewhere on the island. So Carmelina stole a chunk of this god, and rather than using it to bypass the fourth seal, she stitched it onto somebody. And of course, whoever had it stitched onto them would be able to bypass the fourth seal. Now I am explaining this, and, the game is not. I'm telling you what happened, and the game is letting you put it together on your own. So I'm kind of spoiling how it really feels to do this. I am curious if people came here to Witness to the End before they found out, to Crying Grudge, before they found out about the fourth seal. If they did that, I think they would be very confused as to why Crying Grudge's skin was being peeled off. When the Mad King wasn't so mad, he used my flesh to make the lock. He wore it on a pendant. No one can open the lock without him. The Mad King's fourth holy seal. Oh, he just explains it, I guess. Never mind. I can feel the person with my skin attached to him. The anger is like a smog. Oh, no, wait, sorry. He's talking about the demon. I was blanking. He's talking about Red Herring. And I've already completely forgotten about Red Herring because he's such an unimportant part of the actual plot. So we don't know whether or not the Red Herring got a chunk of this god. But we do know that the chunk of this god that was taken by Carmelina got attached to somebody. So it could have been Red Herring. It wasn't, but it could have been. Leave. Righto. Let's get out of here. So, we talked to Crying Grudge, and we found out how the fourth lock had been sealed. The fourth lock requires chunks of Crying Grudge to get through. And we know Montserrat had one. We know that two people, Witness to the End and Carmelina, both came and took some. Carmelina apparently stitched hers to somebody. I wonder what Witness to the End did. Now, obviously, Witness to the End had a demon, and he put the demon in a box and took that box over to the council chambers. So in order to get through the fourth seal, someone would have had to have Witness to the End's little strip of flesh to open that fourth seal. It couldn't have been the demon, because the demon was inside a box. So that scrap of flesh must be hanging out somewhere. Let's just quickly go through Doom Jazz, and then we'll move on to the next episode.
Want to play doctors and nurses? Wonder!
I don't like this.
Investigator!
Sorry.
Indeed!
So we're flirting here with Doom Jazz,
Wonderful.
and he has come up with a new thing for us. Doom Jazz is a pretty reliable source of new information, and we are going to get some new stuff out of him right now. Akiko's in trouble. She's been mixing business and pleasure, and the council found out. They're planning on stripping her of her authority on the next island. So we already know that Akiko tends to bang her troops. What we didn't know is that the council found out, and was apparently not planning on just, slapping her on the wrist. They were planning on taking her down entirely. That's a pretty big piece of testimony. We now have her as having like a really serious reason to kill the council.
Why?
Crime is rebel.
You've got this wrong.
Ice Kiwami told him, so that means that they've been dating for years, since Ice Kiwami died a decade ago.
Sure.
I've got all the time in the world for you.
I'm glad to be back.
Now, I think we've just got some generics here.
I'm a professional. The island is about to end.
So I'm careful here because there is one thing that you can't tell Dr. Doom Jazz or he'll get angry. We'll talk about that in a minute, though. Did you examine the dead guards at the first Holy Seal? Nope.
What the
This is bad.
So Dr. Doom Jazz wasn't allowed to investigate them because, of course, she was running a scam. She was hoping to have them cleaned up in time so that when I came by, I wouldn't be able to scan them for DNA.
Theoretically.
But,
Got
yeah.
it.
Investigator. I see.
Got it.
That's not nice.
Nanny, the hell? I have a bad feeling.
Want to play?
Don't test me.
So right now we're just getting explanations as to why we can't get some help with the servers and some DNA tests and stuff. We already know, however, that the DNA was not from the guards. Akiko is running a scam with those guards, and the details are not
It's been
terribly
wonderful
important.
to see you again.
Excuse me. Tell me about the inhibitors used to sedate Henry. Now here's the weird part about the red herring. Why in the world did they wake him up? There was no reason to. There's no reason to wake him up at all. They didn't have to overcome his inhibitors with a psychic death scream thing. And so I'm not sure why this is part of the plot.
Theoretically.
That
What?
Witness to the End wanted to know about overcoming inhibitors as well. And
the investigator.
apparently Witness is also obsessed with it, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe Witness to the End had something to do with it.
I'm worried.
Here we are. Could these death screams cause an adrenaline burst? Maybe, but I don't know how you'd weaponize a death scream. Well, we do. What about one of these? It looks like it records death screams. Is that a directional speaker? You can record the brain activity using electrodes. The device looks like it has a crystal in it. Some crystals are capable of recording emotions. Well, that's interesting. The death scream gets written onto that, and upon stimulation, the crystal would output the scream. It's one shot, though. You can see the crystal is burned out. I could never experience the death screams as if I'm not a sufferer. Oh, I could never experience the death screams as I'm not a sufferer. I presume you want my opinion, though. The demon that possessed Henry is attuned to psychic energy, and this could have been used to agitate it. Handy if you wanted to turn Henry into a weapon. So it looks like what happened with Henry was that Akiko started to take him out of the cell to do his job as red herring, and then somebody woke him up, and he started to run around. But the thing is, that doesn't make any sense, because he wouldn't have been anywhere near his cell at the time. Akiko managed to take him to where he was supposed to go and managed to do all the things that he was supposed to do. So I'm a little bit confused as to why this happened. If Akiko had actually lost control of him and he had actually run away, then we could say the psychic death scream is from Witness to the End, and that would all work out fine. But right now, I just don't get how it works. And if you know, feel free to tell me.
Got it.
Was there anything odd about the scene or the victim, Grace Bloodlines? That would be the ghost that we've been talking to. You mean odd for a case of demonic possession? I didn't get to examine the scene for long. Akiko was in a rush to contain the area, and it was a pretty open and shut case. The markings were strange, though. Henry's other victim, his mother, had the same sigils scorched into her skin as Henry. Grace had those sigils, but they weren't scorched. They looked like they had been carved with a blade. The demon inside Henry burns with a cosmic fire, and Henry's victims receive the same branding. So if he killed the council, they'd all carry the sigils. So he's explaining to us that the red herring is definitely a red herring, and that he can't write the damn symbols. He doesn't know how. But we don't need that stuff. We already know that red herring is clearly a red herring. There's just a lot of symbols of it. So I'm going to put this off for a second and continue on to the others. Just blah da 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 da. Blah da 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 da. Dee beep 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 beep. Zippity pop. Boopity boop boop. Mop mop. Deepity beep beep pop pop pop. Know anything about demons? What? So here is the difficult part. If you begin to talk to him, he will shut you down. Now, this isn't like a catastrophic end of game sort of thing, but he really likes Aiz Kiwami. And if you just tell him that you have a flask of Aiz Kiwami's blood, he'll know that you've been grave robbing.
Theoretic?
Got it.
I'm a professional.
Huh? I'm worried.
Ooh, the investigator is here.
Investigator.
Sam was just in here picking up his prescription. So
Ah,
Sam apparently took some blood. Kafka Memory's blood. We already sort of knew this. He had that K flask and he used it to get through the third seal, which is recorded as having Kafka going through it. So we know that a couple of days ago, Sam went through the third seal. How did Sam get through the fourth seal, though?
sure.
Now, what he was doing is he was carrying a big box that was full of dead killer demons.
Well, I had
So
no idea.
Don't like this.
You've got this wrong. You've got this wrong.
I think that either way we do it, we're going to end up pissing him off. Let's try it here.
How?
Got it. That's weird.
So this is something where he's just flat out lying to us. He knows who the blood belonged to, and he just didn't want anybody else to know, so he falsified it.
Investigator.
Okay, I think that this is the thing that makes him pissed at us.
That's unusual. I'm a professional. What?
So that pisses him off, but I guess it's not as bad as I thought it was, because when I did it the first time, it actually closed off other questions, and I wasn't able to actually ask them all. This time we did it in a different order, and I didn't have any problems with it, so I guess it's not like a fatal problem of any sort, but it is nice to have those questions all get answered. Anyway, that was a nice long 25-minute episode where we went and talked to a bunch of people. Oh, exciting. In the next episode, we're going to go back to exploring. We're going to wander around the islands some more, maybe visit the residential sector or something. Don't know. Have a good one.